A couple months ago, I made a video about building my dream watch using parts from AliExpress, and it came out great. The build went smooth, the watch looks incredible, so of course I showed it to my friends, and some of them actually decided to make watches of their own as well. But as I was helping with one of the builds, the band that we had bought didn't fit on the case. We ordered 2 more bands, double checking to make sure that they were the right size, and they didn't fit either. So I ended up just giving them my band because it fit, but unfortunately this is something you can run into when you buy parts from AliExpress. It guarantees the cheapest prices possible, but it also means that you can run into some quality and compatibility issues. However, there are retail places that are a more consistent, responsible, and reputable place to get Seiko mod parts from at a slightly higher cost. namokiMODS being the most popular one and the sponsor for this video. namokiMODS is a company based in Singapore that sells high-quality Seiko mod watches, watch parts, and DIY kits. They have their own warehouse to ensure quality control standards are met, and by the small chance that they aren't, according to Reddit, their customer support is top-notch. Because of this, they're the go-to across pretty much the entire r/Seiko mods subreddit outside of AliExpress. So with all that being said, we're gonna build another watch. In this video, I'll be taking you guys through step-by-step on how to build your very own custom Seiko using parts and tools from namokiMODS. Let's go. So here's everything we got from Namoki. Actually, before we do this, if you need somewhere to get started with this whole watch modding hobby, to learn the names of the parts, what they do, and what options you have for each of them, I put together a little PowerPoint to help get you started. I'll put it in the description. Check that out before we go through all of this. Okay, so starting with the case. This is Namoki's SKX TV case in the steel finish. It's their modern rendition of the vintage TV Seikos from the 70s. Brings back that sort of mid-century modern styling with its square features and rounded corners paired with the ladder style integrated bracelet. It's a 36mm case diameter for those of us with small wrists. It measures 41.5mm lug to lug, 10.35mm thin, and is water resistant up to 100 meters. They give you the option to choose your own case back and chapter ring, but I just went with the matching brushed metal options. I grabbed these polished silver Datejust style hands to go on top of this beautiful blue sunburst dial. And the thing powering it all, the trusty Seiko NH35 movement in white. Oh, and then they also included their toolkit that has literally everything you need for building a watch all in this one little pouch. I think the only thing that you need that this doesn't come with is gasket grease, but they sell it there too and it's not that expensive. All right, now starting with our kit, once again, we can grab our finger cots. And these are very helpful for me specifically because I have very sweaty hands, just like that. All right, so first things first, we have to put our dial onto the movement. So the kit actually doesn't come with everything you need. It does have a case holder, but I don't want to use the case holder for the movement. So I do have my own movement pillow thing that I'm going to be using. You're also going to need some wire cutters, tape measure, some nail clippers, a nail file, mostly things that you can just find around your house. So to start off, I'm just going to take the movement out of the case and put it on our movement pillow like that. If you look closely at the back side of the dial, there should be 4 alignment pins, 2 here and 2 here. These are so that we can align them properly to the movement, but the movement only has 2 holes, 1 here and 1 here. So we need to figure out which of these pins we're gonna cut off. And to do that, we're gonna align the date window with the crown stem on the right, and then we're gonna take note of which pins line up with those holes that I showed you guys just a second ago. So it looks like we're gonna be cutting off the one here and the one here. So when I turn it around, it's gonna be backwards. So that's gonna mean we're cutting this one and this one. And then moving our movement out of the way, I'm gonna come over here and just now we should be able to slip the dial right back onto the movement. Just like that. Cool. Look at the dial. Wow, that's pretty. Okay. Next, we have what most people think is the hardest part of this process, but I actually think it's the second hardest, putting the hands on. So obviously we need our hands, and then we also need our Rotico from the kit and our hand tool. As you may remember from the last video, the best way to ensure accurate hand placement is to turn the crown and stop it right as the date changes, just like that. so you know it's exactly midnight and that both the minute and hour hands need to be pointing straight up. Then I recommend using the rotico to grab the hand and then use the hand placement tool to push it onto the movement. And then for the second hand, I've heard that there's a notch somewhere that you need to align. I can't see that, even with this little diopter thing. So I just try to put it in as gently as possible, lining it up however I can, and just pray I don't bend the hand. It's right there. Okay, let's see if that's in. Oh, let's go. Look at that second hand ticket. Let's go. So once you have your hands on, it's best to make sure that they're not hitting each other by just rotating your crown and making sure that the hands can go all the way around without coming in contact. So next we need to resize our crown stem. The crown is the part on the outside of the case that screws in and out and lets you wind the movement and set the date and time. It screws into what is called the crown stem, which goes straight into the movement and physically moves the gears inside of it. This stem is just a placeholder for the actual crown stem, so we need to remove it. To pull the stem out, there's this little button you can push that releases it, and you should be able to pull it right out. Okay, so now that we have the stem out, we would normally just put the entire movement dial and hands into the case just to keep it safe. And then we can work on cutting our crown stem to the right size, putting it in, testing it out. But our case does not have any glass in it or a chapter ring. So we need to do that first. So I'm gonna grab our case holder from the kit, lock it in place, grab our chapter ring, drop it right in there. And then I'm not sure if I need a specific tool for this, but I'm just gonna go ahead. This feels like I need a glass presser or something. I don't have a glass presser or something. Okay, new day, we're back. The case that we bought gives us the option to choose a custom chapter ring, but that means that we need to have the glass off of the case to put the chapter ring in, which also means we need to put the glass onto the case. And to do that, you need a special tool, and that's what I had to go out and buy. This is just a glass press. You pretty much attach one of these little like plastic pressing things on here. You put your case under here, and it just evenly pushes pressure down so that you don't crack your glass. So that is exactly what we're going to do. So I'm gonna need to open this all the way up. We have our glass placed into the correct spot on the case. Slide this under here. And then I need to get down here to make sure that this is all good. And then I've never done this before, so I'm just going to make sure that it's centered and start twisting. Hopefully you guys can see this. I'm going down. There's like a little seating plane inside the piece of plastic, and just making sure that we're centered and pushing down with even force across the glass so that we don't break it. I don't know how hard I should be squeezing this. Feels good though. Let's see if it's in. See if you guys can see this. Looks pretty solid. It's not completely flush on this side, but this side is good. I'm gonna see if I can push this side in a little bit more. So this is what it looks like. And then you just twist, and it pushes it in and presses the glass into place, hopefully evenly. And there we go. That's in for sure. Sweet. Okay. Oh, huge delay, but we finally got it done. And now we can actually put our movement into the case. Same as before. We're gonna push it in to pop the button out. Push on this little tab right here. And pull the stem out. We're gonna drop this right on into the case. Push it down to seat it. Cool. That looks good. Now we can get our first idea of what this looks like. clean, super clean. This is gonna be dope. Now for what's, in my opinion, the most difficult part about building this watch. So when you're building a new watch, they tend to give you one of these universal length crown stems. This is what attaches to the crown on the outside, but goes into the movement and allows you to change the date, time, and actually wind the watch. But the problem with that is that a universal length isn't necessarily universal. They just give you an extra long one so you can cut it yourself and make it fit for the size of case that you have. So the goal is to cut your crown stem to the perfect length to where you can screw it into your crown, put the crown and crown stem into the watch, and close it without causing binding within the movement. And how do we do that? A bunch of trial and error. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna screw this, no Loctite, I'm gonna screw the stem onto the crown so that it looks like this. I'm gonna slide it into the movement and make sure it's fully seated. You can hear it winding. Right? And then I'm gonna take a measurement for how far between the beginning of these threads and the beginning of these threads, and cut that much using these, and then use our nail file to sand it down to make sure that it actually screws back into the crown. We'll see how this goes. So we have about just under 3/8 of an inch. Pull it out, and I need to unscrew this. If it's a little bit too difficult to unscrew this, there's always a flat part on the crown stem that you can hold with tweezers right about there, and it should make unscrewing it pretty easy. Ooh. Now we're gonna pull this back out and then mark just under 3/8 of an inch. I'll just use my finger, that much. Definitely make sure to cover your movement with something so that no debris gets in and push it out of the way. And then we're just going to go ahead and also be careful with this. These things shoot. No idea where that went. It's obviously a pretty rough edge, so I just like to go in here and sand it down, make sure that the threads will engage with the threads in the actual crown. Okay, now for the finishing touches. We need to grease our gasket, we need to put our case back on, and then we need to put on and resize our bracelet. So this is the grease that I was talking about earlier that doesn't come in the kit. It's just this spongy little tube that you just drop your gasket in, put the cap on, twist it around like something, I don't know, and then just use your tweezers to pick it out, put it into the groove in the back where the case back goes, just like this. And then just screw our case back on first by hand and then tightening with the tool from the kit. Date changes nicely, hands move smoothly. The crown is the perfect length. Now we have the bracelet. So the bracelet can go on two different ways. Here I'm just figuring out which way I want to take it on and off. It was definitely better the first way. And now just figuring out where that corresponds on the actual case itself. Again, using another tool from the kit, we have these little V-shaped sort of dagger things that you can jam in there and get the pin out. Also be careful with these because they also are spring-loaded and will fly. Slide it right into the slot on the end of the bracelet. Push one side in with your hands and then using the tool to push the opposite side into place. Doing the same thing with the other side, we have the V-shaped jabbers. Being careful to pull the pin out, sliding it into the end of the other side of the band. Popping it in on one side, using the tool to push the other in. And now we have a band. Obviously it's way too big for me. So we're gonna look at the side of the band for these little flathead screws that hold each link to each other. And go in our kit, find a little mini screwdriver and just unscrew them, pull out the pin, Make sure you take off the protective film before the band comes off, and continue to do this until we have the correct sized band. Just like that. Here it is side to side with my previous Seiko Mod build. Again, I had to give away my band, so I don't have the integrated bracelet. But luckily now I have this new one, and I think it looks absolutely fantastic. It's a little bit dirty. I know, I've since gone in and cleaned it, but for now, this is the B-roll that I have, and that's how it's gonna be for this video. So if you're in the market for a watch and you're like me, you like to put things together yourself, you like to customize them exactly the way you like, I highly, highly, highly recommend you buy from Namoki for your first watch build to make sure that everything goes as smoothly for you as possible. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and check out this video here to see how I built this fake Rolex. Subscribe for more content in the future, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.